Welcome back to my channel. I am your favorite mother of three, Bougie Vintage, and today's video is a story time. Yay! So this is my third and final labor and delivery story. I say final because I am sending somebody to get snipped, okay? Let me not make no promises. Okay, because I always talk about, oh, it's gonna be a short video. And the video is like 45 minutes long. Let's just jump right on into it. Basically, because this was my third baby and we didn't want her to be ginormous, because the rule of thumb is that, or the myth is that every baby gets bigger. Okay, and so it was true for the first two, where my first child, Salem, she was born at 8 pounds 5 ounces. The second baby was Bellamy, was born at 9 pounds 9 ounces. That's a big baby, okay? And so obviously we weren't trying to get into the 10 zone because that's just too big, honey. I mean, my hoo-ha's this small. Well, this is pretty large. My hoo-ha's small. And I'm not trying to push a 10-pound child out of it. It's just not a thing. Heading into my doctor's office, we discussed that, and we decided that by the time I'm full term, so you're full term at 37 weeks, by the time I was 38 weeks, we would try to get labor started by doing a stretch and sweep at 38 weeks. Just to give you guys background, if you haven't watched my other labor and delivery stories, with the first labor, very easy, very peasy, okay? First labor and delivery was super duper easy because, well, I was GBS positive. So basically that's just something that naturally happens in some women, and it's just a bacteria. And basically if you're GBS positive, you need to be given medicine before delivering. It's possible to make the baby sick if you don't get the medicine. Now, with that situation, I was leaking fluid, and it was after I had gotten a sweep done, I think at 40 weeks. I guess the doctor that did it, or the whoever swept me, it wasn't my actual OB. It was whoever was in the office that day, and I think she had actually punctured the sac. So I was leaking fluid, and because I was GBS positive, they had to induce me right away. With that pregnancy, they were like, no, please come to the hospital. Like, and I didn't want to go because I already had gone before, and I got sent home. So I went, and I was leaking fluid. So they induced me, and because they induced me, which is very painful, I was able to get my epidural and blah, blah, blah. Smooth sailing from the time I got the epidural. Didn't feel anything really, because I felt my contractions, but then when it was actually time to push, I actually had to have the nurse tell me when I'm having a contraction, because I couldn't feel a thing, honey. They put the fentanyl in the back and it was smooth sailing from there. So that was first pregnancy. Second pregnancy, drama galore, okay? Like, it was just extreme drama from start to finish. The second pregnancy, I did not go with OB because I wanted to experience midwife. Big mistake. Never again. I will never ever. Well, girl, this is the last pregnancy, so I don't know why we were talking about never again. Heavenly Father, please don't let me eat my words. No, seriously. So the midwife situation was horrendous. I went to try midwife because everybody's always raving about midwives and how it's a much more personable experience, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, yeah, let me get a midwife. Got a midwife, and just no on all accounts. Because it's your second child, things can go like that. I actually had a few sweeps done, I think, leading up to that birth, but the problem was I had also had false alarms. So every time that I had a false alarm, obviously they're probably getting annoyed with me. And so on the day that I was actually in labor, and I knew I was in labor because I was experiencing cramping, everybody was encouraging me to call the midwife, and I said, no, she's going to piss me off, which is exactly what happened. And so all day from 7:30 in the morning until 8:30 p.m. at night, where the contractions were really bad, I was at home laboring, and finally, like, it just looked so crazy. My tummy looked so tense. My mom was like, call the midwife. So I call her, and she pisses me off, just like I said. She told me she doesn't think my contractions are close enough together. Keep in mind, this is my second child, and I have a literal contraction app on my phone that tells me go to the hospital or call your midwife to say blah, 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 blah. So that was happening, and it was literally telling me, okay, you need to call. And so I did, and she was like, I don't think your contractions are close enough together. So I was like, okay. Got on the phone with her, not even an hour, what was it? Not even an hour and a half later, I'm pissing, shitting, and vomiting, pardon my French, on the toilet, all three at the same time, and to where the pressure was so much and so intense that my water breaks on the toilet at home. It's, what is it, 10 o'clock? Not even 10 o'clock. And so I call the midwife and I tell her, my water just broke. And so drama, we rush to the hospital, flying down the highway, we get to the hospital, and then I'm thinking I'm gonna get my epidural because I'm like gung-ho for epidural. That was not a thing. So there's a 9-pound baby inside of me, and I realize I have to push her out without drugs. Not trying to experience that ever again. So when I got pregnant the third time, I said I need to go back to the OB, because when you have an OB, you don't have to call your midwife first and then go to the hospital. You can just go to the hospital. I don't even know where I left off, girl. I just had drama just now with the kids. So yeah, basically I get to the hospital and I want my epidural. Can't get my epidural because I'm at the hospital at 9 centimeters. The baby is ready to come out. That one was a little traumatizing for me because I thought I was gonna get the epidural even when I was 9 centimeters. Nobody told me that I wasn't gonna get it, okay? I had to actually come to the realization that I wasn't gonna get it. Pregnancy number 2 was an experience that I never want to experience again. I'd never want to be laboring at home for a long time and then get to the hospital and can't get what I need. So that was that. Pushing out a 9-pound baby with absolutely no drugs and not having been mentally prepared for that was taxing on me. So like I said, once I got pregnant the third time and I went to the doctor, she basically said, okay, we'll try to get labor started at 38 weeks. And so I asked her what the best plan of action is for me, if I should labor at home and then get to the hospital. She said absolutely not, because it's your third baby. She could come out like this, blah, blah, blah. So pregnancy was normal. Pregnancy was fine. But once we got to 38 weeks and we did the first sweep, I was anticipating that because it's my third child, she was just gonna come right out. Okay, I didn't think we had to wait any longer after that stretch and sweep. And so I had the stretch and sweep, and there was no blood with the first stretch and sweep, and I didn't go into labor. And so from the very beginning, I knew that I was getting a stretch done at 38 weeks. I was like super duper excited, thinking pregnancy is over. I can, go back to living my regular life with obviously a new baby. But I was looking at 38 weeks as 40 weeks. So when she didn't come out at the 38 week mark and I got to 39 weeks, I started to get frustrated. So at the next appointment, which was at 39 weeks, I had another sweep done. And the first time she did the sweep versus the second time she did the sweep, it was different, because the first time she only had she said there's just like a centimeter, maybe centimeter and a half there that she can stretch. So she asked me if I want her to stretch it. I said yes. She did it. Second time I go in, same thing. Only the second time she stretched me, there was a little bit of blood on her glove, which was a good sign. And she also said she can feel the baby's head. She's like, oh yeah, I can feel the baby's head right there. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I'm thinking, because I'm in so much pain at this point, guys, like my body is in pain, my body's over pregnancy. I'm trying to get back to life. And because I'm in so much pain and like walking and getting out of bed had become a chore, I really just wanted the pregnancy to be over with. She sweeps me at 39 weeks. The baby still ain't come out, child. I said, no. I said, Miss Ma'am, you need to get on out, okay? Like we were trying everything to get her out. On top of that, I had her dad take off a week from work because I was thinking that I was gonna go into labor. So I made him take off the first week of March because my due date was March 14th. Now, I want to talk about due dates for a second because my due date was wrong on many counts. The reason my due date was wrong was because I knew my conception date. I've always known, every single pregnancy, I've known my conception date because I use period tracker, and I always mark down the days that I'm intimate. I've always known my conception dates, but when you are dealing with the doctors, they go based on your last period. Based on my last period, my due date was March 14th, but based on conception, my due date would actually have been March 26th. So when she swept me at 38 weeks, I was really actually only maybe 37 weeks. So it was just too early for baby to come out. Once we got to 40 weeks, or 39 weeks, she had sent me for an ultrasound to check the size of the baby again, just to make sure that there was no complications, or that I wasn't there wasn't a lack of fluid in there or anything like that. That's just what they do. It's just protocol. So I went to get an ultrasound. Everything looked normal. I was hoping that at that ultrasound, they would have sent me upstairs to triage and told me, we got to get this baby out of you, but that's not what happened. And so I was super, super duper upset. I was definitely, the last 2 weeks that I was pregnant, I was very, very miserable. I was not a joy to be around. I was very frustrated. I just wanted her to come out. But then when I realized how wrong my due date was, because from the 14th to the 26th that's a long time. It's 2 weeks. So, or almost 2 weeks. So when I realized that, I then started to feel bad because I'm trying to take the baby out the nest and she wasn't ready yet. So once I actually realized that my due date was more likely the 26th than the 14th, I kind of settled down and said, you know what, let me give it to God, chat. Whatever is meant to be will be. It is what it is. I'm not fighting this anymore. So we get to 40 weeks, baby still ain't budging. At this point, this is like my 4th stretch and sweep. And because I was 40 weeks, I told the doctor, I said, listen, you need to induce me. Give me what you got. Give me the Pitocin, give me the oxytocin, whatever y'all got to get this baby out, give it to me. Because I cannot go on any longer. I have 2 little ones at home that need me. I don't have time for this, okay? Imagine that. Imagine being pregnant and telling the doctor, I don't have time to be pregnant. But that was me. I was like, I ain't got time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Like, I really had no time anymore. I said, no, I can't be pregnant anymore. I need to be not pregnant and just focus on the kids. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna put you on the induction list for Sunday. By Sunday, that would have made me 41 weeks. I was shocked because I'm like, wow, like, I really thought that when you're having more and more babies, they come out sooner and faster. But that's not, it's the case, but it's not necessarily the case, and we'll get into that in a second. And there will be video in here of the actual labor, and so yeah, stay tuned for that. So yeah, we get to 41 weeks, and basically how the induction list works at the hospital is your doctor puts you on the list for whatever day, and the hospital will call you and let you know when to come in. I wasn't gonna wait, child. So Sunday rolls around and I call, like, what was it, 12 a.m. I waited up till 12 a.m. to call, and they said, hi, I'm on the induction list for today. I want to know if you guys are, like, what's the tea? Are you guys gonna call me? I'm calling y'all. Like, I need this baby out of me stat. And so the lady on the phone was like, okay, well, there's 4 people on the list today. There's 3 people ahead of you. So I was the last person on the list for Sunday. She's like, and so she explained to me how it works. And she was like, basically, they'll give me a call if they are going to induce me that day. And they call up until 10 p.m. After 10 p.m., I guess it's the next day that I will be priority. But they call up until 10 p.m. So it's Sunday and that was the 12 a.m. call. When I go to sleep, I wake up, and maybe around 10, or I think the lady on the phone at 12 a.m. told me to give them a call back around noon. And so I did. So when it was lunchtime, I called again, And at that point, she let me know that one person had already been called in and induced and taken care of. So now there's only 2 people ahead of me. So I'm getting excited. I'm like, oh my God, it's late. It's only 12 o'clock in the day. We have until 10 p.m. Like, I'm super duper excited because I'm like, yes, today is the day. Finally, the baby's coming. Like, I wasn't looking forward to getting induced. I was just looking forward to get the baby out because when you get induced, it really does hurt. 12 o'clock happens. It's not my turn yet. I think she said to try back around like 3. So I call it 3, and at that point, 2 people had gone. So that means there's only 1 more person ahead of me. So now I'm really, really excited. I'm like, oh my God, yes. I'm gonna go get induced. I'm gonna meet the baby. Like, I'm super duper excited. When I call it 3, and they tell me that, they also tell me like, wait till around 6 p.m. to give us a call and get another update. So I call at 6, okay, or after 6. I think it was probably around like 7:30. She's like, if you don't hear from us by 6, then give us a call. So I call, and they tell me that there was another person that I guess came in for spontaneous labor. So that kicked me down on the list a little bit because I'm not priority. Priority is whoever comes in spontaneously in labor, and not somebody that's going to be induced, and not somebody that does not have a scheduled C-section. When I call at 7:30, the lady on the phone tells me it's probably not going to be today, and I'm like, oh my God. She's like, yeah, so probably first thing tomorrow, because they start calling at 6 a.m. is what the original person told me. They start calling at 6 p.m. They finish calling at 10 p.m. So at 7 something, they're telling me, yeah, it doesn't look like it's gonna be today. It'll most likely be tomorrow morning. I was so sad. I'm like, wow, like I really thought that today was gonna be the day. Again, at this point, their dad had gone back to work, and so you can't really decide like when the baby's coming out unless you have a C-section plan and it's for sure. And even sometimes then C-sections get pushed. So we were really playing cat and mouse with work because it was like, okay, my wife's going into labor and I need to be there, but y'all got me on a schedule, so you know what I mean. So he had actually taken off the Sunday and the Monday because I was on the list that it was a for sure thing. And so when they tell me I might not go until the next day, I was like, oh my gosh, like it just my countenance definitely fell. At that point, I still had a little bit of hope left in me, but it was just in God's hands. It was like, whatever is clever, God, like, you know what I mean? Whatever you say, we will do. So I don't know if we had put on a movie or what, but I had actually taken my phone off vibrate. So I always have my phone on vibrate, but because I wanted to not miss the phone call, which they call private, and I knew they called private, I had my phone off vibrate all day. So we're sitting there watching TV or whatever, and then it's 9:51 and my phone starts ringing. 9:51 p.m. They stopped calling at 10, okay? So it's 9:51 p.m. and my phone's ringing, and I'm like, I answer, I'm like, hello? They asked if it's me. I'm like, yeah. They're like, so you're on the induction list for today. Did you still want to come in? I said, I've been waiting for you guys to call me all day. I've been calling y'all all day. Do I want to come in? Of course I want to come in. So they're like, okay, what time do you think you guys will get here? You guys can just come straight up, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay, oh, we'll be there by like 11:30 the latest. So my bags were already packed and in the car ready to go. The only thing we didn't have was snacks. So we actually, that was the only thing we stopped for. Now I guess I could get into how COVIDiana changed the game in terms of giving birth in 2021. It's clear that a lot of people ended up pregnant due to Corona. So actually for the last few weeks at the hospital, it's been a lot of births, because when I had my false alarms and I was going to the hospital, they were saying that they were so busy that night. And so prior to actually giving birth, I had asked these questions because I was like, how does it work now? Because before, you go to the hospital and it's just like, is so chill. But now you go to the hospital, girl, and when you walk in, well, one, you sanitize, but two, if you're wearing a cloth mask, they actually use tweezers and hand you a hospital mask, and you have to put that one on, and then you go up to triage. Originally, they had stated that your support person cannot come up with you if you think you're in labor. You go up and they gotta wait in the car until you give them a call. And so my concern was, because it was my third child, what if she comes flying out and he's downstairs in the car? Like, that's not cool. Or what if I have to labor by myself for X amount of time because of that? Like, I was so uncomfortable with that. It kind of made me nervous. But because of being induced, we got to skip past go, child. So when we got to the hospital, we go upstairs. They put us in our room right away because the room was already ready for us. And we basically just set up shop, you know, and then we waited. My first nurse actually had the same name as me, and she was black, so I was really excited to have her in my room. She was a sweetheart. She chatted me up a lot, like we were talking or whatever, and this is pretty much 12 a.m. until I think 7 a.m. she was my nurse, and then there was a switch. So she was mad chill, and she told me that I was under the impression that I had to wear my mask the whole time, but she had told me I don't have to wear my mask in the room. Now, the difference between giving birth now and giving birth before is you can walk out your room and walk the hallways if you need to walk around. While you're in labor, you can go get a drink at the fountain, fill your cup with ice, I mean. And so now there was none of that. You cannot leave the room. You can't do anything. Your support person can't leave the room. If you need ice and water, your nurse has to go get it for you. I had her probably get me ice once, and then when they did the switch over, I had the other nurse get me ice. I really like the birthing center at that hospital. You have everything in your room anyway, so you don't really need to go out, but you're supposed to come prepared with your snacks. So like I said, we stopped on the way to get those snacks. But we hadn't eaten since probably, it was a Sunday, so Sunday dinner is usually really early, so we had dinner probably at 4 or 5. It was oxtail. Such a good dinner for that day. We hadn't eaten since then, so we were snacking on foolishness. Anyway, a doctor came in, but it wasn't the main doctor that was going to be looking after my birth should I go into labor right then and there. It was like an assistant doctor. She was a resident doctor, but she wasn't, she's like younger, right? If you watch Grey's Anatomy, then you know there's stages, okay? Basically, how they get you into labor is they take like this hook thing, this plastic hook, and they try to break the sac. So she checks to see, I'm still, for the last like 2.5 weeks, I was 3.5 centimeters, and I was not moving past 3.5 centimeters no matter what we tried. I forgot to tell you the part where we tried everything. We were knocking boots like nobody's business. We were going out for spicy food, like he brought me to go eat suicide wings. We tried everything in the book, all the myths to get the baby out. Nothing was happening, like nothing. She didn't want to come out. This is prior to being induced. Anyway, every time that I would, actually prior to giving birth, every time that we would smush, I would actually lose more and more mucus plug. And so I'm thinking, okay, the baby's coming, because to get Belle out, that's what happened too. Like we did the baby dance, and then I went into labor. So I'm thinking this is gonna be the same thing, but it was not, okay? There was so much boot knocking going on and no baby was coming out. And I was very confused. I was like, I am confusion, okay? I didn't get it. So anyway, fast forward back to being at the hospital. They take a thing and they try to break the sac and break your water. So the doctor comes in, and she obviously doesn't have as much experience, so she struggles and she is unable to break my water. I said, oh Lord, child, who they got down there? Who do they really have down there trying to break my water and can't break my water? Like, I don't like the way this is going. I want the other person to come in and do it. And so the other doctor comes in a while later, actually. I don't remember what time it was, but he comes in and he breaks it no problem. And I want to mention this because I'm actually very uncomfortable with male doctors, and the first time I went into labor, the male doctor that was there, no. I was actually a little bit nervous about having a male doctor examine me again, but this doctor made me feel super duper comfortable, and like he was super duper chill and cool, and I didn't feel violated after. So, because I did with the first time I went to labor, it was very weird. Anyway, with this doctor, yeah, he's super chill. He talked to me a bit at first, and then he went and he checked my cervix, and he was able to break the water no problem. And this time it wasn't a big pop and fluid gushing everywhere like it was with the second pregnancy. This time it was super duper, just a little, like it was a lot of liquid, but it was just a trickle. It wasn't some grand friggin' Niagara Falls thing going on. He breaks my water, and he said, now we just wait for nature to do its thing. So we're waiting for nature, and I am experiencing some cramping. I tried to have a nap actually. I do experience a little bit of cramping without the oxytocin, which is a drip. They weren't super duper intense. And so I think by the time 5 o'clock in the morning rolled around, then they had to give me drip. They give me drip. It's starting to make my contractions come, but then the nurse that comes in for the 7 o'clock shift, she checks my cervix, and I'm still only 3.5 centimeters, but the contractions are very painful. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. How am I only 3.5 centimeters? Like, still, I've been 3.5 centimeters for 2 damn weeks. I need to know why this is not progressing. So at this point, I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna have to cut me open. Like, I'm gonna have to have a C-section. I really don't want one. This is not okay. And so she explains to me that sometimes with latent labor, women are experiencing this pain for days, and they don't get into active labor until whenever. But then she said, but like, we would never have that happen at the hospital, like during an induction. She means like if people are at home in latent labor and they're not progressing because they're not in active labor. So basically that's what was happening. But I didn't get it because the contractions really were starting to feel like I was like 7 centimeters dilated. It made no sense to me. So when my other nurse was there, I actually had asked for morphine, but I never got it. I guess I didn't push hard enough to get it. So when she came in at 7 o'clock, I said, I need my epidural, like stat. Like whenever y'all can get it, I need it. I need to be the next person in line for an epidural. I need it. She calls the anesthesiologist, and the anesthesiologist says, okay, I have a scheduled C-section that I'm going to right now to do the epidural, and then I'll come up there to her and then go about my business. I was happy to hear this. It's probably close to 8 a.m., maybe 8:30 that I got the epidural. I don't remember what time I got these things, chat. I don't remember what time it was. But, oh wait, I have the phone. Let me see. Let me give you guys the play-by-play. Sorry that we're gonna go backwards here. So at 1:46, they broke my water. At 5:38 a.m., I was telling my family that I have mild contractions that are disturbing my sleep, strong enough to request the narcotic, so we're getting somewhere. So at that point, I was requesting the morphine. Because of COVID, there is no laughing gas, and I hate laughing gas anyway, but it's still, I still would take it, okay? I'll take anything to alleviate the pain. They're not giving it out during COVID at all, and there's a shortage in Ottawa. That's what they're telling the patients. You either get epidural, morphine, or natural. And so at 5:51, they started my drip. This is AM. At that point, my contractions were not close. They were starting to get intense, but they were not close enough together to say I'm in active labor. So at that point, I was having contractions, and I couldn't fall back asleep. So basically, I just put on my court shows because there's Wi-Fi at the hospital. I just put on my court shows. I was watching People's Court and like Judge Mathis, and I leaned it up against my water bottle and was watching on my phone while my nurse sat beside me. So at 6:48 a.m., my contractions started to get closer, but I still was not in active labor. And then at 7:40 a.m., the contractions, and I quote, are kicking my ass. I told them to get the epidural ASAP. So then the nurse started setting up the room for me to get the epidural at 7:45 a.m. By 8:50, the epidural was in. Now let's talk about epidural for a second, because for the last 2 pregnancies, I was really, really nervous about epidural because of the first guy that gave me the epidural. He's like, if you move, it'll be catastrophic. So ever since then, I've had that embedded in my head that you cannot move when you're getting the epidural, because apparently the needle is like this long and it's really big. I've never seen the needle. To this day, I have not seen the needle. So I don't know what the needle for epidural looks like, and I don't want to know, so I'm not even going to Google it. They make you curl your back like an angry cat, and then they numb your back first with like other needles, small needles just around the spine, and then they put the big needle in between the spine, right? So if you move, jolt, do anything, you know, if you do anything while they're doing that, you can be paralyzed for life. And so that's what's going on in my head, thinking about that. And it's not a comforting thought. And so when the first guy gave me epidural in my first pregnancy, I have a very sensitive back. Like if you touch it, I will jump, but I didn't move at all. This lady, this anesthesiologist, she was making me curl. The nurse was standing in front of me holding my shoulders, and I was trying not to move, but when she was giving me the needles, I was moving, and she's like, okay, like you cannot move. And so I guess it's okay if you move when you're getting the numbing stuff, but if you move when you get the actual epidural needle, you're done. Okay, so she had been doing the numbing, and I did jump a little bit while she was doing that. And so she's like, okay, like now I'm gonna do the epidural, so cannot move. And so I just go into prayer mode. So the nurse is holding my shoulders, I'm hunched over, I'm holding under the nurse's arms, and I'm literally praying like, God, please keep me still. So it's in, and she's like, okay, now I'm putting in the catheter. And then that was that. Apparently she was like chucking stuff across the room. This is what she was telling me. She chucked stuff. She was like, she moves super duper fast, and so she's chucking stuff across the room. One of the other people in the room were gonna go get it, and she's like, no, don't do that. They don't pay you enough to pick up my garbage. So she was funny, but she gives me my epidural. I get it, and I'm like, oh, thank God. At 8:50, epidural was in. I laid down, and I was kind of leaning to one side. And so my left side was getting more numb than my right side. So they had to put a wedge under me so that I wouldn't be too numb on one side, because you need it to just be consistent. Once she did that, then my contractions, they started to, I could still feel them. So the epidural hadn't fully kicked in, because it takes about 20 minutes at least for it to fully kick in, but it definitely was helping to alleviate the pain, because the contractions that I was feeling prior to the epidural were like death. Okay, I was like so over it. I'm like, I know I wanted to get induced, I know I want to get the baby out, but this is the part that I hate of being pregnant and going into labor. Like, why does it have to be painful? Why? Again, I'm updating my family in the girl chat. So at 9:11, okay, and the times are very important that you guys, so that's why I keep telling you the times. At 9:11, I text them and I say, I'm in active labor now at 4.5 centimeters versus an hour ago when I was only 3 centimeters, which I've been for X amount of time. So it's gonna go fast now. The doctor, my actual OB, she had come in at this point. She switched over from the last doctor, and she checked, when they checked my cervix, and I was 4.5 centimeters. Like, okay, like they thought that I had like maybe an hour to go, or an hour and a half, like a little bit of time to go. That was at 9:11. The doctor leaves the room. I'm on a phone call with my sister on a FaceTime, and I'm like talking to my kids at my house. And I started feeling like a pressure, like a poo pressure, right? Because you feel it in your bum a lot. And the nurse had said to me, oh, like if you start feeling like a pressure in your bum, that's like the baby wanting to come out. So I already knew that, obviously, because this is not my first time. This is not my first or second time. This is my third. So I already knew what that feeling was. And so I felt it at one point, and I'm like, oh, like that's super intense. And keep in mind, I have the epidural, so it shouldn't really be that intense, but I just got the epidural. It hadn't fully kicked in yet. So I feel this pressure and I'm like, what the hell? So I'm on the phone with my sister and I'm like, yeah, what's going on? So then I get off the phone with my sister. Contraction ends and then I get another one and it's the same, but only it's like way more intense. And I'm feeling this pressure in my body and I'm like, oh my God, the baby is coming out. And so I was like, I said to the doctor, I think you better check my cervix because I'm in pain, like not in pain, but like I feel like she's coming out. And so this lady says to me, okay, don't try not to push until the doctors get here. I was like, I'm not in control right now. I have zero control over what is happening with my body. She's coming out, like this is it. I'm not pushing. So the doctors rush in. So between 9:11 a.m. and 9:22 a.m., which is when I sent the last text, and 9:22, I text my family while I'm literally in labor. And I said she's on her way out. And at 9:25 a.m., I gave birth to her. I didn't have a say in the matter. She was like, Mom, it's time. I'm coming out. So an hour prior to that, I was literally at 3 centimeters not moving. And so remember, I was saying I was super confused because I'm like, why are my contractions so intense but my cervix is not opening? An hour later, the baby comes flying out and I didn't even really push her. She just came out and she popped out. The doctors caught her obviously. And I was like, oh my God, she's out. And so in the video, you'll hear me laughing when I realized that I'm in labor because I was in shock. I was legit in shock because I'm like, why the hell is she coming out so fast? Like I wasn't mentally prepared for that, but it wasn't as traumatizing as the last one. So she came out at 9:25. She was 8 pounds and 1 ounce. So she was smaller than my first and the second. And that's pretty much how she came into this world. She came into the world in 11 minutes. Literally from 9:11 to 9:22. I went from 4.5 centimeters to 10 centimeters in 10 minutes. So yeah, she came flying out on her own. I didn't really have to push her. So I'm gonna have to assume, should hypothetically speaking, if I were to get pregnant a 4th time, I have to be on crack to get pregnant a 4th time. But if I were to get pregnant a 4th time, I would have to assume that baby, she just gonna come out on her own. Like she's just gonna fly out, because that was crazy. 11 minutes is like nuts. I feel like the rules at the hospital are a little weird now, because the first nurse told me I don't have to wear my mask while I'm in the room. The second nurse came in and told me the opposite. She said you have to keep your mask on, and I'm like, lady, I can barely breathe already. You want me to keep this on while I'm in my bed minding my business? How about you stay outside of my room? I don't need you in here right now, okay? But yeah, so that's pretty much it. And so just a couple days ago, I wanted to check to see if my abdominal muscles had separated, because I would actually be really devastated if they had. But it looks like they're still intact. So once I lose the rest of the weight, which is hopefully soon, I'm actually cutting things out of my diet right now, so I'm gonna include those updates for you guys, like what I eat in a day and my exercising, so that I can get back to normal. But not yet, obviously, because I'm like a week out. Like I gave birth on the 22nd of March. She's 10 days old as of today, and I'm just taking it super easy. You know, there's still a lot going on here. Oh, and as far as tearing goes, I actually thought she was like 6 pounds the way she came out. Like she came out super duper easy. Once again, I had an internal tear, and it was only, what was it, like 2 stitches versus, and then there's a little cut like by my urethra, but they didn't stitch it. She said it would be too uncomfortable for me, so just let it heal on its own. Versus the first pregnancy, I had 20 stitches internally, and then the second pregnancy, I think I had like maybe 6 stitches. So I've been getting less and less stitches each and every time. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this labor and delivery story. Every labor and delivery has been different and it's been quite an experience. I don't think I want to go through that again unless the Lord is going to surprise me. Yeah, I've been enjoying being a mom of 3. She's the sweetest little thing. She looks like both of her sisters. It's kind of cool. And what the hell's going on, child? And she's super duper chill, but I'll give you guys a baby update in another video and I'll let you guys help me name her. So I love you all so much and I will definitely see you guys in the next one. God bless you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I figured that would happen. She still has your Band-Aid on from last night? I'm so done. Alright. Love you. I'll see you guys when I see you. Oh, babe.
Hi, Mama.
I feel so a lot. Yeah. Oh my god. Okay, bye. You know, I feel like that I have to push or something. Oh shit. Yeah, I have to push. Oh god.
Try to focus on your breath.
What the?
You're maybe 10.
Oh my god. What the hell? Are you serious?
What?
Why is she coming out so suddenly? What the hell? Yes, I'm so confused. Oh my god.
Yeah, she's a psychopath.
Oh my god.
Who? Her or the baby?
Maybe both.
Probably both.
Okay, just put it
Oh my god. Oh shit.
Let your knees go to the side. You got this. Touch on the outside. Oh yeah. Feel that? I'll just push a bell so that the doctors come in there, but I'll double check that you're 10.
That's abrupt.
That's very fast. That's crazy. Okay, sorry. So just try not to push till the doctors get here because she's really low.
You're so casually on a FaceTime call.
Oh wow. Okay, so I'll just readjust this. You ended the phone call just on time. Hey.
Oh my god.
Euh, 41 plus 1 liquide clair, 3e bébé. Il était 400 cm il y a comme 10 minutes.
Ouais, c'est ça. C'est ça.
So breathe through it, okay?
Ben, il est déjà brûlé. T'as fait la veste, maintenant? Ouais.
Oui, je sais. Slow deep breath, Sabrina. Try just to breathe this one and then the doctors
I'm
will be
pushing.
taking it.
It's
You're
coming
good.
out. Oh my god. Oh.
Slow deep breath.
Oh my god, I really can take this.
You're doing awesome. Obviously, Michael. Slow deep breath. You got this. Why? Wait, put the gas to do it. She's coming.
Oh no.
Sure. Good job, Sabrina. Just gonna sneak in behind you. You're doing awesome. In through your nose and out through your mouth.
Okay. Just a bit easier, baby.
Sabrina, I just need you to bring your legs up in these little things. Good job. And then keep them there because the bottom of the bed's going to be off. Scoot your bum down a bit. We'll help you out.
I thought it would be sooner, but I didn't think it'd be like that.
Breathe.
Oh,
Slow, deep breath. Slow, deep breath. Okay, breathe through it.
Excellent. Do you think you can bend your knees back a little bit?
she's out.
Congratulations! Holy cow! You guys are so what a gorgeous baby! Happy birthday! We've got a mouthful of stuff there. Just turn it. Done! Yeah, she's gargling that stuff. Can you just suck that in, please?
Just come on up, walk.
All right. Let's see. Better on. Well done! Holy smokes! 4.5? I can call it live. 4.5 live. Okay, here they go too. That's fun over there. Elise, she's so pretty.
Awesome.
We're just waiting for the birthday party. I'm Chloe. Congratulations.
In a minute.
Alright, so time to come to court now.
Alex,
So, you can go ahead and put that one in place of court.
Yes.
Alright, go ahead and grab.
Oh, don't cut it
We'll
yet.
show you where.
Or is it
Yeah, yeah, it's good. Go ahead between the two there.
Just have small. Just have to sit down. Just have to sit down. Perfect. Try to unbutton that side there. The other one. Yeah. One second. Okay. Lovely. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Were they all that quick?
No, this is
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Oui, merci.
On va mettre oh, vous avez déjà du 5 doigts. So we're going to look at this
Sorry.
I know it's easier said than done. You're going to feel just a bit of a pressure here.